Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines and the stories that make our community tick. We got 2-hour block today. First hour is the segment we call Headlines and Basslines. Read some of the headlines in the New Haven Independent, my go-to source for news, and so many others' go-to source in town. Talk about what that's about a little bit, and then intersperse it with music at some points inspired by the headlines. Like, my favorite story this week wasn't the biggest story. I love a lot of stories every day I read in the Independent. But my story that really caught my eye, here was the headline. Sign installed as Kimberly Park friends keep cleaning. Is that kind of nice? I love Kimberly Park. You know, it's right there near I-95 at the edge of the Kimberly Square part of the hill off the boulevard. It's a really nice park, a big park that always gets trashed. The neighbors have reclaimed it, and they've worked with the city to make improvements. They got money that hasn't come in yet. That's part of what Maya McFadden was writing about. The truth is they don't have the money yet. They've been working on with the city to use to improve that park. So in the meantime, some of the neighbors, including kids, planted all these perennials there, some nice flowers to make it nice. And you'd think that's the kind of thing that the city government would help encourage. But guess what they did? The public works crew came by and they were cleaning some trash. It was good to do. They ripped up all the plants that these kids planted with the adults to make Kimberly Park nicer. Can you believe that? Now, of course, people make mistakes, right? The parks crew's busy. But they didn't apologize. The Independent called the head of public works for comment. He said, "We love working with neighbors." No, you don't. You go and rip up the flowers they plant. Now, of course, there are some bigger things going on in the world than dozens of perennials that were planted at Kimberly Square. But it kind of gets to the root of how we think of our city and how we work together or not work together to make it a nicer city, to have buy-in from the community that it's our spaces. We'll work with the city to make them nicer. And it's not a big deal to make a mistake, but it's another example of how this city government really runs roughshod, is unaccountable, how they deal with the public. And then they can't admit they make a mistake. Like, why weren't they out the next day replanting those flowers and inviting the kids to do it with them and celebrating? I don't know. That's your cranky host here saying that. But Aretha Franklin had some advice for the public works crew the next time you're about to trample on flowers that were planted by kids. Maybe first you can think.
Just
Think by the great Aretha Franklin. Not only amazing vocal performance, when you think about what they used to pack into 2 minutes and 20 seconds, how much song was happening there, how much emotion, where they took us. And that's in honor of the New Haven Public Works Department, a recommendation that before ripping up dozens of perennial flowers planted by neighbors of all ages and neighbors like Kimberly Square in their park, maybe think first and leave the flowers. And then think about if you did make that mistake, because we all make mistakes, could you come back, say you're sorry, and plant new flowers? But this is New Haven, folks, where the people who run the government feel like they don't really have to respond or be accountable to the public. But we're talking about headlines and baselines here on New Haven's Dateline New Haven, WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live stream, New Haven and Pittsburgh. The big headline of the week and the big news of the week was Housing Authority to buy ex-Church Street South site for $21 million. I'll tell you why it's a big deal. So you got that big plot of land across from the Union Station, the train station. First thing you see coming into New Haven, we're in an era now of something called transit-oriented development. We realize the city's future partly hinges on what they do with transportation and how they build around transportation. So in addition to always being an important property for the first thing you see when you come into New Haven, it also is a valuable property for what it could mean for growth in New Haven, good growth, if we do it right. So for decades, that's been bedeviling us because the Church Street South housing development, which used to be a co-op, and then it got run down. It became just regular public housing, and conditions there got so bad it had to be torn down. Long story there. We've written about 40 stories or more in The Independent about it. We had an instant relocation of 300 families because conditions were so bad there that they thought it was hard for people's health and kids being able to breathe, that a project that the federal government said was very safe based on its inspections suddenly in one day became so unsafe everyone had to be cleared out. It got knocked down years ago, and it sat there vacant because the Ellicker administration could not come to an agreement with the developer, who can be a little difficult about what to build there. Well, finally to the rescue came New Haven's Housing Authority. Karen Du Bois Wilton struck a deal with Northland Development, the company that owns the property from Boston, and now the Housing Authority is going to take it over. Housing Authority is going to build some mixed income housing there. We need the housing. It's interesting how the Housing Authority has become one of our most reliable developers. When you think about how it rebuilt all these developments that used to be run down public housing projects, Farnham Court became Mill River Crossing, Elm Haven became Monterey, West Rock, 3 separate developments were built really nicely. They got their game together. And that the head of Northland, during that difficult period when they had to relocate the families, developed a good working relationship with Karen Du Bois Wilton, who runs the Housing Authority, and found they could work together even when things are tough, so they're able to strike this deal. What interesting to me is that, being an old person who's covered New Haven a long time, I used to have a different view of the Housing Authority, and so did the country, and so did the city. It used to be the problem agency. It was run so badly, went through a series, 80s and 90s, went through a series of different people running it with scandals, misuse of money, but also just not doing the work. It's hard work, right? Running housing, you're always going to have problems because you're dealing with people with hard times in their lives and all living together, and sometimes it's hard to have good housing there. We were on the troubled list. That was the name of the list that the authority was on when the federal government said, we give you money for public housing, but you're not spending it right. We're going to watch you closely. As I said, there was big turnover, scandals, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then it turned around under Bob Solomon and then Karen Du Bois Wilton now for a long time. And it's become a successful agency that other moving to work was one of the designations they got. They helped their people living there not just have a decent place to live, but in their lives become more stable through job opportunities, education. And they dealt with changes in federal funding when there wasn't enough money to go around. They created a development arm, a building arm that is a nonprofit, Glendower, that builds and now manages low-income housing, and it's working. And of course, you could always find a problem because tons of people there, and there aren't enough apartments. But that's what this week news between the lines told me. Besides, it's great that now there's a possibility we can build across the train station, build it right with mixed income housing. We need the affordable housing. We need the mix. Have it be a nice place across the train station. But it also just made me think of how the Housing Authority in New Haven, it's a good story about, as Michelle Schacht put it in her album Arkansas Traveler. She has a song that could have been appropriate for what's happening with the Housing Authority, called Come a Long Way.
Kicked in his door at 5 a.m. I come for my bike, I told the repo man, my 920's gonna take me far today. You can travel for miles and never leave LA. I've come a long way, I've come a long way. I've gone 500 miles today. I've come a long way, I've come a long way, and never even left LA. Drive by the plaza where the gay boys pose, stand in the windows wearing no clothes. I heard the screams of the dying dark through the sweet green icing of MacArthur Park, and then I crossed the river into East LA. Pescado mojado me encontré. I'm giving up on rock and roll, and I'm saving up for norteño. The river she runs by the railroad tracks. I swear I'll never take it back. A train she cries on the midnight hour, all along the watchtower. I've come a long way, I've come a long way. I've gone 500 miles today. I've come a long way, I've come a long way, and never even left LA. I got it down to San Pedro Bay, watch my ship sail in, watch the sail away. The sun was sinking into the sea, but a ball of fire inside of me was burning my motor and driving me hard past the big hair on the boulevard and up Mulholland where I made the scene like the one that took little Jimmy Dean. And then I shimmied up Wilshire like a little silver past the rodeo and the Pachyderm. And then I stopped for coffee at an art cafe. I saw the repo man and made my getaway, doing the Eagle Rock, heading for the hill. Oh, try to let my engines cool, and it's not my fault that this town shakes. I saw the Bowling Rock and I hit my brakes. Come a long way, I've come a long way. I've gone 500 miles today. I've come a long way, I've come a long way, and never even left LA. Now you tow it to the repo man's front door, and you give him these keys. I don't need them no more. You tow it to the repo man's front door, and you give him these keys. I don't need them no more. I come a long way, I come a long way. Gone 500 miles today. I come a long way, I come a long way, and never even left LA. I come a long way, I come a long way. I've gone 500 miles today. I come a long way, I come a long way, and never even left LA. And never even left LA. And never even left
Michelle Schacht's Come a Long Way. And so has the New Haven Housing Authority. The Housing Authority of New Haven, as evidence this week about their ability to strike the deal the Ellick administration couldn't, which was to get moving again with Church Street South. The vacant property used to have several hundred apartments across from Union Station, our train station, is now in the hands of the Housing Authority with plans to replicate its success elsewhere in town and build mixed income housing. Looks nice. Welcome to the city. deal with our affordable housing and affordability crunch. Dateline New Haven headlines and baselines. WNHH-FM. That's what we're up to this hour. One headline, based on a story this week, the headline coming up on December 1st is going to be Ganim sworn in as mayor. That's in Bridgeport. It's happened before. He's been the mayor a bunch of times. He had to go to prison for a while for getting caught taking bribes, came back, became mayor again. Normally that wouldn't be a controversial headline, but this one's very controversial because he didn't win the election. He announced in a story this week that he's going to be sworn in as mayor December 1st, even though he hasn't won an election for mayor in Bridgeport. Now, how could that happen? Well, he won a primary for mayor, a Democratic primary for another term. And video, they caught this person who in the past was wrapped for illegally handling absentee ballots. You're supposed to turn them in yourself or bring them to a drop box yourself. And instead, this Ganim worker was bringing buckets of ballots in the middle of the night to drop them off herself, which raises questions about whether the voting was legitimate. And when a judge saw that, said, you got to redo this primary. But by the time the judge made that ruling, the general election was already scheduled and he couldn't undo the general election. So they had an election. Joe Ganim did win the general election, but the same thing happened as in the last three elections, three of the most recent elections, where he lost on the machines but won on the absentee ballots. And for 2 years in a row, 2 election cycles in a row, he was cited for improper handling of absentee ballots. So now, after that general election, there's a do-over primary scheduled for next month, or the month after, where he and John Gomes, who had beaten him at the polls in the primary and general election, will have another primary. And then if Ganim loses that primary, there'll be another general election. And yet he claims, I'm just going to make myself mayor. You know, I feel it's a little bit like when they seize power in banana republics. But maybe that's how we're coming here. And so how could that happen? I would argue that the State Elections Enforcement Commission is at the root of this problem. It has the name enforcement. Enforcement is supposed to enforce election rules. But every time there's a problem in an election, it takes so long for them to deal with it, the results go through. And then their penalties are so minor they could do it again. This is a great example because it was 4 years ago that the same person who was accused of mishandling ballots, this time for Joe Ganim, was accused of doing the same thing. 4 years ago, the election went through. Ganim was sworn in. And the SEC, the Elections Enforcement Commission, said, you know, it's true. What she did was wrong. Don't do that anymore, they said. They had a little slap on the wrist fine or something. And then she allegedly did it again because the consequences weren't great. And because the SEC is not set up to deal in real time, the judge was limited in what he could do in terms of he couldn't cancel the general. So they couldn't have a primary really fast again. They couldn't put off the general. So they got to figure that out. Because right now they're not really enforcing election laws. They're doing slaps on the wrist after the fact so that they can't really stop alleged chicanery from changing what would be a democratic election. Bob Dylan considered this question, and his answer was on the Oh Mercy album that we live in a political world.
We live in a political world. Love don't have any place. We're living in times where men commit crimes and crime don't have a face. We live in a political world. Icicles hanging down, wedding bells ring and angels sing and clouds cover up the ground. We live in a political world. Wisdom is thrown into jail. It rots in a cell in the sky that is hell, leaving no one to pick up the trail. We live in a political world where mercy walks the plank. Life is in mirrors, death disappears up the steps into the nearest bank. sure that it's real. We live in a political world. The cities of a lonesome fear. Little by little, you turn to the middle, but you're never sure why you're here. We live in a political world. Under the microscope, you can travel anywhere and hang yourself there. You always got more than enough rope. We live in a political world, turning and thrashing about. As soon as you awake, you trade to take what looks like the easy way out. We live in a political world where peace is not welcome at all. It's turned away from the door to wander some more or put up against the wall. We live in a political world. Everything's a hers and his. Climbing to the flame and shout God's name, but you're not even sure what it is.
We live in a political world where mercy walks the plank, and Joe Ganim plans to swear himself in as mayor, even though he hasn't yet won an election. I guess when you're used to having absentee ballots collected in the way he does, you kind of determine in advance who won the election, and the rest is just a formality. Here on Headlines and Basslines, WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio, is Paul Bass telling you, looking at what's in the news, mostly the New Haven Independent, and what it's worth singing about. Well, here was a big headline this week. 145 embark on first flight to Puerto Rico. 6 in the morning, all these people were jammed into the hangar at Tweed New Haven Airport. Actually, hangar's probably the wrong word there, right? Or anyway, the waiting area. And they were going to take the first flight from the new service from New Haven to Puerto Rico. It's big news. We have a big Puerto Rican community here in New Haven. 300,000 Puerto Rican people with Puerto Rican background in the state of Connecticut. Big, big deal. And a happy day for the city. You know, whatever you think about the pros and cons of the airport, it's great that there's this direct connection for people going with their families or just for vacation, going back and forth. It's the 18th route that Avelo Airlines has started flying out of Tweed. It wasn't that long ago. It was less than 2 years, I believe, that we weren't going anywhere at Tweed. All those arguments, could we ever be an airport that connected New Haven to all these other different destinations? It turned out that we could, except it wasn't going to be a business-oriented airport. For decades, the business community had this jihad saying we got to build up Tweed because then we'll get all these jobs and we'll be a big headquarters, and that just didn't happen. And we would try it and it would peter out in a few months. But Avelo's going strong, at least for now. 18 different cities in no time. And largely, not only, but largely people using it for vacations, like a lot of the people Tom Breen met. And he got up early in the morning, went out to Tweed, and caught the energy as the governor was cutting the ribbon or doing whatever ceremonial nonsense to do, which to celebrate it. It's also the first outside the continental U.S. So, as Westville's Midnight Strangers would say, oh wait, I gotta change this one. This is what they would say about it: the way that all of a sudden that has been transformed. It has been transformed like magic.
Shrouded past, I see a part I know will last. It goes until I break the spell. I think of all the things I've said, I should have left them in my head. They creep and they Yeah, it's like magic. Come back to me. The devil and his mean brigade tried to ruin my parade. They tell me where the grass is greener. But with the wizard at my side, I don't need a place to hide. 'Cause one can beat any sword. Hey, Mr. Magic Man, won't you keep on doing what you can? I don't know what I'll do, 'cause I haven't got much time left with you. Feel alright. Come back to me. I only hear what I want to hear. I only see what I cannot fear. I said, hey, yeah, it's like magic. Come back to me. They come back when I'm asleep. The wizard man gives me peace. I said, hey, yeah, it's like magic. Come back to me. Come back to me.
Like Magic from the Midnight Strangers, teen band from Westville. Now they're off in college, but they were in high school when they made that one. They were here in the studio, and you're listening to WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven headlines and basslines this hour. Headlines mostly from the New Haven Independent, and basslines from songs we like to hear. Here was a sad headline, but an important story in the city by Nora Grace Flood this week in the Independent. Youth shelter planned, but not for Hazel Street. So Youth Continuum is a group that works with young adults and who are homeless. And homelessness is way on the rise, as you know, for all age groups. They have money to get a 12-space overnight center for people to get out of the cold this winter. You need these warming centers. This one would be geared directly to people 18 to 24 years old, which, some people don't consider that youth, but some of them are sort of in between. And a lot of people LGBT who have no place to stay for that reason, but a lot of reasons homelessness is up. So a church in New Hallville, a guy runs a church, Pastor Rob Smith from New Hallville. He wanted to put the center there. Mount Calvary Deliverance Tabernacle had a facility on Hazel Street. He had a community meeting, and he wanted to get support from his neighbors. He said, these are our kids, our neighbors, our daughters, our sons, our nieces, our nephews. If not us, who? And his neighbors said, we don't like this idea that we get called cold-hearted if we have a neighborhood where there's a lot of poverty, so many quality of life challenges. We don't think all these facilities should be in our neighborhood because they do bring problems with them. Neighbor Ron Harrell said, this is not a safe place. You don't know nothing about shootouts on Sundays. Why you want to bring the youth over here anyway? It's the lion's den. They're not kids, he added. They're probably people who must not have done right by their families and were therefore without a support system. This is raw stuff. And it's easy for some of us who don't have these facilities on our block to criticize people for their reactions. It's a tough challenge of how we are a community that cares. We do give a lot more services than anyone else around in the state for the homeless and people struggling with mental health problems. And it is important to include neighborhoods in decisions. So I'm going to punt and just say this matters. Sympathetic for all people, including people who need a warm place to stay. And be inspired by Marie Knight, who spent a lot of time at church. She was a gospel singer, crossed over to be a great R&B singer. From her album, Let Us Get Together, the title track that hopefully in the end we can get together. Marie Knight.
Let us get together right down here. 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 Let us walk together right down here. Walk together right down here. Let us walk together right down here. Let us walk together right down here. Let us do our living Let us do our living right down here. Let us do our living right down here. Live together, yeah, right down here. Let us shout together right down here. Let us shout together down here. Let us shout together right down here. Let us shout together right down here. Let us do our dressing right down here. Let us do our dressing right down here. Let us do our dressing right down here. Do your dressing now right down here. Let us mourn together right down here. Let us mourn together right down here. Let us mourn together right down here. Mourn together right down here. Let us join together right down here. Join together right down here. Let us join together right down here. Let us join together right down here.
Let Us Get Together by Marie Knight. Great album she did, a tribute to Reverend Gary Davis. Larry Campbell played the guitar on that. I'll keep it on in the background as I touch on some other headlines here on Headlines and Basslines segment of WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven program. Paul Bass talking about the headlines and the music that goes with it. Headline: Feds seize another $1.2 million in stolen city funds. Drip, 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 drip. Well, it wasn't a drip when a hacker impersonating a bus contractor stole $6 million, made it disappear out of the school district's system. Money meant for the school bus contractor, this hacker still on the loose. This months ago, stole $6 million. Everyone thought that meant we have a incompetent city. I don't. Everyone's getting hit, and we all try. Everyone's trying to stop these crazy hackers. I went and outsmarted them. I think we finally learned not to click. I think someone clicked on one of those links. They try to get you to click when they're phishing with a PH, phishing. But the feds are getting it back piece by piece, and this week they got another $1.2 million. Grandmaster Flask has one thing to say about this kind of hackery of public dollars meant for young kids' education and transformation, and that is, it's nasty.
We wanna rock you. We're the kings of swing, and we're chosen to rule. The things are clean inside the cool school. We're the chiefs of relief, contain the wild beast. The finesse of the west, the masterpiece of the east. The bars of cars, the lord of afford. The ones with the platinum vocal cord. We're the science of desire, with the magical might. The monarch of the dark in the night of light. We advertise and specialize in the exercise that will energize the young ladies' thighs. Cause all the fly guys make just to rise right before their eyes. We're the earl of the world, and the heir of flame. The duke of dare, the mayor of debonair. Got fine, drink wine, keep dancing, dine. Got a first class female, oh so fine. Hey lady, scene. I got to be clean. I tour around the world to make the people dance. And here's a little message for the ladies in France. Je m'appelle Melly Belle. Donnez-moi la petite mademoiselle. Donnez-moi sing, donnez-moi cease, donnez-moi weep no peace.
I'm seeing this girl that I just adore. I'm seeing this girl and what I never saw before. The way she was swaying and doing the swing, I had to let her know just about my thing. I'm the M-R-N-E-double-S. Come on, a fly girl, and put me to a test. And I'll rock you until you give me the rest. I keep on it until you start the fest.
Naheem, in your life, what more can you ask? I bet you can't think of a greater task. I make my light shine on your cloudy days. You can surf if you want to on my wave. I caress your soft body on those mellow nights. A continuous thing till the morning light. It's reality, it's not a dream. It's something less than the best when it's from Raheem.
Now it's my turn, so understand that I'm the key Creole and I'm a ladies' man. I don't have a lot of women hanging on my sleeve. Only one fine lady that you better believe. It's like a next her name, and that's the truth. I give a lot of things up before I turn her loose. It's just her and me, and that's simple and plain. And that's the only way I'll run my game.
Well, I'm a cowboy and I'm the real McCoy. I'm chocolate all over like an almond joy. Bow-legged cool brother, and you will agree. On top of the world for the ladies to see. Gonna hip, gonna hop, gonna rock the spot. Gonna make everybody wanna rock, rock, rock. Gonna do it to the east, wanna do it to the west. Gonna make you relax right up on my chest.
Grandmaster Flash is willing and able. He's the king of the cuts on 2 turntables. He's the grand, the master man. He's so nice with his head, he don't need no bed. Rocks 45 and 33. Rocks boys, men, women, and young ladies. He can slice so precise, it's almost funny. And it makes better love than a makes money. Slick Rick, Slick Rick, Slick Rick, Slick Rick, Slick Rick, Slick Rick.
It's Nasty from Grandmaster Flash. Put out a few decades ago before some hacker took $6 million out of the school district computer system meant for bus contract, and that was nasty. You notice the lick that they were playing at the beginning of that song, the theme, and it kept coming back from Genius of Love, was later appropriated by the Tom Tom Club, but that's a fair game in hip hop, right? They get the beat or the line, the musical line, and that they did a whole song out of Genius of Love from that one. But that was Grandmaster Flash here on Headlines and Basslines, WNHH-FM. The one headline that I noticed here was that district managers cut back amid cop shortage. That was Tom Breen's story in The Independent this week. That's actually a big deal. We have 10 community policing districts in New Haven. We really need 12 because 2 of them on the East Shore, and then East Rock, New Hallville, Cedar Hill are so sprawling it's not really a neighborhood. But districts are the foundations of community policing. That's where each neighborhood gets its own top cop, a district manager, officers they're used to seeing, a place they can sort of gather, although they kind of look like fortresses. I'm not quite sure why they built it that way. But community policing relies on districts and district managers. We have a cop shortage where 65 positions are not filled in the police department. This is a national problem. It's exacerbated here in New Haven because promising cops, especially of color, are poached by the suburbs all the time, offered more money for less dangerous work. But nationally, there's a shortage of police officers for a variety of reasons. And New Haven just doesn't have enough to go around. And community policing requires people power, meaning people to show up, not just responding to a call of a crime after it happens, but getting to know people and seeing problems that can be solved in conjunction with community. District managers are very popular people because they show up at the meetings with their community and they give out their phone number and they keep people informed, and that's all it takes. You know, I've seen all sorts of different managers who have very different philosophies. Some could be called community policing, some are more militaristic, some are more community-minded and seeing problems before they start. But in general, if you just show up and work with people, they appreciate it. But we don't have enough to go around right now because we also need detectives. We also need people to go out on sick leave. We need people to patrol. So of the 10 districts now, there are only 4 district managers. We have people doing downtown and in New Hallville and that kind of thing. So luckily, we can work on that. We can try to get a new police union contract, keep recruiting. But the truth is that's sort of trying to almost keep at the level it's at before it gets worse. A lot of people retired. So we wish them luck. No one's mad at anybody. Just dealing with a challenge. And just remember that there can always be a better day. That gray sky could turn blue. As Kristen Ford says on songs that's on my heavy rotation these days. Gray Sky Blue by Kristen Ford. Gray Sky Blue from Kristen Ford over her second to last CD, War in the Living Room. And that one went out to the police department trying to struggle with the staff shortage and looking for gray skies to turn blue and having enough staff. Thanks for joining us this first hour in Dateline New Haven. We did Basslines and Headlines. We're going to take it out with a headline. We're going to come back after the break with Sippy Smilovitz, who always explains Israel to us. And boy, she's the national correspondent, the American correspondent for Israel's largest circulation print newspaper, Yediot Ahronot. And she'll be in here to, at this very important time, help us make some sense of this craziness going on in the world. One last headline I wanted to mention was Iris picks new executive director. Maggie Mitchell-Salem is going to be taking over our nationally recognized immigrant and refugee integration service program, where hundreds of New Haveners help welcome newcomers to our city who are fleeing all parts of the world, bad situations, help them get settled. She replaces Chris George, who ran the organization for 18 years, got it recognized by the State Department as a place where they're going to send refugees here to New Haven, knowing we're going to do a good job and not have politicians hot dog hate to get elected and blame immigrants. Made our community stronger. And Chris George spent a great 18 years. And then just as important as when you know to take on a task is when you know the task is done and it's time to turn it over to someone else. Congratulations to Chris George for not only doing a great job, but knowing, as Michelle Schacht, play one more song from her record, Arkansas Traveler. She had a song that Chris George obviously knew about, which is that the secret to a long life is knowing when it's time to go. We'll be back after the break with Sippy.
Billy Barlow was a poor boy, that's why he robbed the Union Grove Bank. He was a sweet-talking ladies' man, that's what he'd have ladies all to thank. Oh, the secret to a long life's knowing when it's time to go. Oh, the secret to a long life's knowing when it's time to go. So when the posse came riding, Billy went hiding down south. Pulled up in a shack with Maria, with the black hair and the ruby red mouth. Oh, the secret to a long life's knowing when it's time to go. Oh, the secret to a long life's knowing when it's time to go. do